In the middle of the Indiana Fever's playoff victory over the Atlanta Dream, Sophie Cunningham, already sidelined with an injury, found herself face to face with league security. Not just any staffer, but one of the infamous WNBA police, a female officer stationed courtside who seemed intent on making an example out of her. Sophie wasn't yelling. She wasn't starting trouble. She was just standing, watching, supporting her teammates from the sideline. And suddenly, she had a badge at her face. What followed is now burned into WNBA history. Cunningham, refusing to flinch, locked eyes with the officer and delivered a glare so sharp, so unbothered, that it instantly went viral. A stare down for the ages. That moment? It's become more than just a clip. It's a symbol, a snapshot of the tension that's been simmering under the league's surface for years. Authenticity versus control, realness versus polish. Stars who refuse to play by the league's script versus an organization desperate to keep things neat. And Sophie Cunningham? She just ripped the mask off. Let's break it down. The Fever were rolling. Caitlin Clark was orchestrating the offense with her usual blend of poise and fire.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
Kelsey Mitchell was cooking. Boston was anchoring. The Dream were collapsing. It was Indiana's night. And then the cameras cut to Cunningham. You could see her energy. Even in street clothes, she was living every possession, feeding her team from the sideline. That's Sophie. Fiery, present, unapologetically herself. And apparently, that was enough to trigger league security. A female officer moved into her space. No words at first, just presence. A silent challenge. Fans noticed it immediately. Why was Sophie being policed for simply existing on the bench? Why was an injured player treated like a threat? Sophie didn't back down. She didn't shout. She didn't raise a hand. She just stared back. And the look said everything. You don't scare me. You don't control me. Not here. Not now. It was defiance without words. And it was powerful. Because in that moment, Sophie Cunningham wasn't just Sophie Cunningham the player. She was Sophie Cunningham the symbol. A symbol of resistance. Of raw authenticity. Of a star who refuses to be sanitized to fit the league's image. And the fans? They ate it up. Social media detonated. Clips of the stare down hit Twitter within minutes. TikTok edits set to rap anthems pulled in millions of views overnight. Instagram captions praised her as the last real one. Fans dubbed it the Sophie stare, calling it the moment she officially crossed from role player into icon. But the reactions weren't just hype. They were angry, too. Why was Sophie even confronted? Why did security feel the need to lean on her, of all people? And why does it always seem like outspoken players, players like Sophie, players like Caitlin Clark, get this kind of treatment, while others are allowed to coast without scrutiny? The fans connected the dots. This wasn't just an isolated overstep. It was part of a larger pattern. The WNBA loves to promote stars, but only the ones who fit neatly into their pre-approved narrative. Sophie Cunningham doesn't fit. She's loud. She's brash. She's real. She says what she thinks, even when it makes the league uncomfortable. And the league? They don't know what to do with that. So instead of embracing her energy, they police it. Literally. And Sophie wasn't about to let it slide. Post-game, when reporters asked her about the stare down, she didn't soften her words. She called it what it was, an overreaction. She said she wouldn't be intimidated, that no security guard or league policy was going to take her spirit from her. And the way she said it, calm, collected, but with fire in her eyes. That's the part that rattled people. She didn't beg for sympathy. She didn't make excuses. She just doubled down on who she is. And Sophie Cunningham? She won. I'm here to play ball, support my team, and be myself. If that's a problem for somebody, that's on them, not me. That line alone cemented her status. Because here's the truth. Sophie Cunningham is exactly the kind of player the WNBA should be protecting. She's authentic. She's marketable. She's a fighter. Fans resonate with her because she's not fake. She's not a brand. She's a person. But instead of celebrating that, the league tried to dim it. And in doing so, they just made her brighter. Now, let's address the bigger issue, bias and double standards. Because let's be real, If this had been another player, the reaction would have been different. If it were Angel Reese, the headlines would scream attitude problem. If it were Paige Buchers, the league might have brushed it off entirely. If it were Caitlin Clark, it would have been a PR crisis demanding protection of the face of the league. But Sophie Cunningham, she got treated like a problem to be managed. And that's what makes this so raw. Because this isn't just about Sophie. It's about the culture. The culture of picking favorites, of controlling who gets shine, of punishing the players who refuse to kiss the ring. It's a league-wide sickness, and fans are done with it. Let's talk about the damage. Incidents like this don't just go away. They linger. They chip at the league's credibility. They make players distrust leadership. They make sponsors wonder if this is really the environment they want to attach their brands to. Because if you're willing to police your own stars on live TV, in front of millions, what does that say about your priorities? It says you care more about control than the game. And when the game stops being the focus, fans stop caring. The Fever's win over Atlanta should have been the headline. Caitlin Clark's poise under pressure. Mitchell's relentless scoring. Boston's defensive dominance. Instead, the clip everyone's sharing is a stare down between a player and a cop. That's not just embarrassing. It's self-sabotage. But here's the twist. The league might have thought they were putting Sophie in her place. Instead, they elevated her. Because what was meant to look like discipline turned into a viral show of resistance. And now Sophie Cunningham is hotter than ever. Her jersey sales? Watch them spike. Her following? Growing by the hour. Her reputation? Cemented as the fearless rebel who won't be silenced. They try to suppress her. They just made her unstoppable. And that's the irony the league can't escape. The very thing they fear, the raw authenticity of stars like Sophie, is exactly what fans crave. If it sells tickets, it's what drives engagement. It's what makes the WNBA feel real. The polish, the fake smiles, the control narratives. Fans are tired of it. They want Sophie Cunningham glaring at authority and saying, "Not today." So what does this leave us? With a league staring at itself in the mirror. Do they keep trying to silence the players who don't fit their image? Or do they finally embrace them? Because, let's be honest, the future of the W isn't in manufactured stars. It's in the real ones. The ones who risk fines to tell the truth. The ones who don't flinch when security leans in. The ones who feel like people, not press releases. And Sophie Cunningham just proved she's one of them. She didn't have to score 30 to win the night. She didn't even have to step on the court. All it took was a look, a stare, that said, "I'm not afraid. I'm not controlled. I'm still here." And fans will remember that longer than any final score. So what do you think? Did league security cross the line? Was Sophie Cunningham targeted unfairly? Or did she just expose a deeper problem the WNBA doesn't want to admit? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and hit subscribe if you want the truth about the chaos the league would rather you ignore. Because this wasn't just a stare down. This was a showdown. You don't need to be a body language expert to know what went down courtside was about power. The officer wasn't securing the game. She wasn't breaking up a fight. She wasn't protecting fans. She was asserting control, walking straight into Cunningham's orbit like she owned it. And Sophie's response? Refusing to blink, refusing to step back, refusing to cower? That was rebellion in real time. It was more than a stare. It was a statement. You don't control me. You don't silence me. Not here, not now, not ever. The cameras caught it. The fans saw it. The internet immortalized it. And the WNBA? They got exposed. Let's rewind. Sophie Cunningham's reputation isn't built on being quiet. She's known for her grit, her trash talk, her willingness to get in opponents' faces. Some love her for it. Some hate her for it. But no one can deny it's real. That's what makes her magnetic. She doesn't shrink herself down to fit the league's polished, corporate-approved aesthetic. She leans into who she is, loud, competitive, unapologetic. In a league, they've never quite known how to handle players like that. They love to market fierce competitors, but only when the fierceness is packaged neatly. Like a commercial, not like real life. Cunningham isn't a commercial. She's chaos. She's fire. She's authentic to the bone. So instead of promoting her energy, the league polices it. Literally. And that's what fans saw in that stare down. A player being told she was too much when she wasn't doing anything at all. Here's the kicker. Sophie was injured. She wasn't even in uniform. She wasn't throwing elbows or arguing with refs or mixing it up on the floor. She was just there, standing, watching, living in the game. And yet somehow, she became a threat to league security. That's the hypocrisy people can't get over. Because we've all seen actual confrontations get brushed off when they involve the league's favorite stars. We've seen refs laugh with players who scream in their faces. We've seen elbows thrown without technicals. But Sophie Cunningham, standing silently, gets stared down by an officer like she's one step from a riot? That double standard is why fans lost it online. It's not about safety. It's not about professionalism. It's about image control. And Sophie Cunningham doesn't fit the image. Now let's talk fallout. The Staredown wasn't just viral, it was defining. Cunningham's glare got replayed more than the game-winning threes, more than Clark's dimes, more than Boston's rebounds. It was the story. Fans rallied. TikToks branded Sophie as the league's new rebel queen. Tweets crowned her the people's champ. Comment sections turned into war zones, with people demanding accountability from the league. Because everyone understood the symbolism. This wasn't just Sophie versus a cop. This was Sophie versus a system. And in that system, outspoken players, Cunningham, Clark, Reese, others, are the ones who always get the microscope. Meanwhile, the safe, brand-friendly players never seem to get this treatment. That's why fans are calling it hypocrisy. That's why sponsors are raising eyebrows. And that's why Sophie's response, calm, steady, but unyielding, felt like such a win. She didn't crack. She didn't get baited into a meltdown. She just stood there, realer than the whole operation around her. And fans loved her for it. But here's the danger for the league. Moments like this cut deep. The WNBA is finally riding a wave of momentum. Attendance is up. Viewership is up. Expansion is on the horizon. Stars like Caitlin Clark have drawn in whole new audiences. And instead of focusing on basketball excellence, the league is making headlines for a stare down with security. That doesn't sell the game. That doesn't inspire fans. That doesn't build credibility. It makes the league look petty, insecure, and out of touch. Because here's the truth. Authenticity sells. Fans don't want scripted personalities. They don't want every player to sound like they're reading a corporate press release. They want Sophie Cunningham glaring down authority. They want Clark clapping back at haters. They want Reese flexing after buckets. The league's problem? They want the growth these players bring, but not the personalities that come with it. And that's not just short-sighted. That's sabotage. Let's put it bluntly. Sophie Cunningham is now bigger than a role player. Before this, she was a tough, likable guard with a reputation for being feisty. Now, she's a symbol. She's the player who stared down the system and didn't blink. The player who exposed the double standards without saying a word. The player who showed fans exactly what the league does to stars it can't control. And in the age of social media, that symbolism matters more than stat sheets. You can't script authenticity. You can't fake resistance. You can't polish realness. Sophie Cunningham has it. And now she has the spotlight, too. The officer, by the way, wasn't some faceless prop. She was a woman in uniform, tasked with keeping order. But her decision to target Sophie revealed the cracks in the league's approach. Because think about it. What was she actually doing? Was Sophie a danger to anyone? Was she causing disruption? No. She was being policed, not for her actions, but for her presence. And that's the ugliest part of all. Because when presence alone becomes the threat, it's not about safety anymore. It's about silencing, about control. And that's why this moment resonated so deeply. Fans saw it. They recognized it. And they weren't going to let it slide. So what happens now? The league has two options. They ignore it, pretend it never happened, hope the memes fade, move on without addressing the underlying double standards. They own it, admit the mistake, commit to protecting all players equally, not just the chosen few. Show that they value authenticity as much as they value marketability. If they choose the first option, they'll keep bleeding credibility. Fans will keep calling them out. Players will keep losing trust. If they choose the second, they might actually turn this into a moment of growth. But let's be honest. Which option do you think they'll take? Exactly. The irony of all this is simple. They try to control Sophie Cunningham. Instead, they created Sophie Cunningham, the legend. Her glare is now immortal. Her defiance has made her a fan favorite. Her authenticity has made her untouchable. The league lost control the second that clip hit Twitter. Because Sophie didn't need a microphone. She didn't need a rant. She didn't even need a game-winning shot. All she needed was a stare. And in that moment, she won more than the fever did on the court. She won the culture. Sophie, injured but present, standing with the team she bleeds for. On the other side of her, a uniformed officer, not there to secure the arena from outside threats, but to secure the league from its own players. It was tense. It was awkward. It was unnecessary. And then, the look. Sophie locking in, unblinking, unflinching, saying more with her eyes than the league has managed to say in years with its polished press releases. That moment hit because it was real. Fans didn't just see it, they felt it. It was defiance in its purest form. Now let's talk about the league itself. Because this wasn't an accident. You don't just randomly decide to intimidate Sophie Cunningham, of all people. She's already been on the league's radar. She's outspoken. She's fiery. She refuses to play the role of the safe star. The WNBA has this complicated relationship with players like Sophie. They want her passion on the court, her toughness in highlight reels, her grittiness when they need to market rivalries. But the second she shows that same authenticity off the court, suddenly it's too much. Suddenly, it's unprofessional. It's the same tired cycle we've seen before. They love to market the idea of fierce competitors, but only as long as those competitors play nice once the buzzer sounds. Sophie doesn't play nice, and that's why she got singled out. Here's the thing. The league underestimated her. They thought she'd fold, or laugh it off, or give them some soundbite they could twist later. Instead, she gave them a silent message louder than any words. I see you, and I'm not afraid. That's why fans went crazy for it. Because in that stare, they recognized every moment they've ever felt silenced, sidelined, or told to tone it down. This wasn't just about basketball anymore. It was about authenticity versus control. The double standard is impossible to ignore. Let's be real. If this exact same scenario happened to one of the league's golden children, the entire story would have been spun differently. If Angel Reese had stared down security, we'd have endless debates about attitude problems. If Paige Buchers had done it, the narrative might have been softened to misunderstanding. If Caitlin Clark had locked eyes with a cop, the storyline would have been about protecting the face of the league. But Sophie Cunningham? She's not packaged for league marketing the way they want. So the treatment she got was cold, impersonal, and dismissive. And that hypocrisy is exactly what fans are sick of. Let's talk about the timing. This didn't happen in some meaningless preseason game. This happened during a playoff win. Indiana beating Atlanta should have been the story. Clark threading passes. Mitchell dropping buckets. Boston anchoring the paint. That's the basketball we're supposed to be celebrating. But no, what went viral wasn't the Fever's execution. It wasn't the Dream's collapse. It was Sophie being policed for daring to exist in her full, authentic self. That's the league shooting itself in the foot. Because you can't demand fans invest in your stars and then treat those same stars like liabilities. You can't beg for authenticity and then punish players for refusing to play a role. The Staredown only exposed what's been brewing under the surface. A league obsessed with control instead of growth. And let's not forget Sophie's post-game words. Calm, collected, but cutting straight through the noise. I'm here to support my team. If that's a problem, that's not on me. That line has been replayed as much as the stare itself. Because it wasn't emotional. It wasn't defensive. It was factual. She was literally doing nothing wrong. And yet, she was treated like a problem. That's why this moment has legs. Because it crystallized the absurdity of how the league treats outspoken players. Now, let's think about the officer. A female security guard, tasked with order. But order from what? There were no brawls, no threats, no fan disruptions, no chaos. The only disruption was Sophie's presence. Her fire. Her unwillingness to tone herself down. And that's what made it worse. Because this wasn't about protecting the game. It was about controlling the narrative. When a league needs officers to monitor its own players' body language, that's not security. That's oppression. So where do we go from here? For Sophie Cunningham, her status has leveled up. Before this, she was respected. Now, she's a folk hero, the rebel, the defiant one, the woman who stared down the badge and didn't blink. Fans are already elevating her beyond basketball. Memes, merch, edits with captions like "Unbothered Queen." And it's not just for laughs. People genuinely see her as a symbol of resistance against the league's hypocrisy. For the league, the fallout is more complicated. They wanted control. What they got was exposure. Every time they try to silence an outspoken player, the internet amplifies them. Every time they try to bury a personality, fans dig them up and make them louder. The WNBA can't keep running this playbook. It doesn't work anymore. Not in an age where fans are connected 24/7, where clips go viral in minutes, where narratives escape their control almost instantly. If they don't adjust, they'll keep losing trust. And once trust is gone, all the expansion, all the sponsorships, all the hype in the world won't bring it back. Let's zoom out. Sophie's stare down wasn't just a rebellious moment. It was a lesson. Authenticity is the product. That's what fans are buying. The stares, the claps, the trash talk, the celebrations, the defiance. That's what makes basketball basketball. The league's obsession with a sanitized, controlled image is what keeps undercutting its own momentum. Because fans don't want perfection. They want real. Sophie Cunningham gave them real. And in doing so, she exposed how rare that feels in a league that's supposed to be built on it. Here's the wild part. The WNBA thought Sophie was the problem, but she may have just handed them the solution. If the league actually leaned into moments like this, if they stopped trying to police authenticity and instead celebrated it, they'd have lightning in a bottle. People didn't tune into the stare down because it was scandalous. They tuned in because it was human. It was raw. It was unforgettable. That's the product the league should be selling. But until they figure that out, players like Sophie will keep getting singled out, and fans will keep calling it out. So let's leave it with this. The stare down was a moment, but the meaning? That's long-term. Sophie Cunningham is now more than a player. She's a symbol, a reminder that no matter how much the league tries to script its stars, the real ones will always shine through. She didn't move. She didn't blink. She didn't bend. And that unshakable defiance? That's what fans will remember. Long after the final score. Long after the season ends. Long after the league tries to spin it away. So what do you think? Did Sophie Cunningham just expose the league's double standards? Was the stare down just a petty moment? Or a turning point for how fans and players see the WNBA? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the chaos the league doesn't want you to see. Because this wasn't just Sophie versus a cop. This was Sophie versus the system. And Sophie won.